We will continue to support legislative efforts to make our schools and communities safe and oppose gun control schemes that cannot keep us safe and only punish law-abiding Americans.
So that's what's just not true. The NRA keeps on saying that more guns keep people more safe. And
no, they
study
don't.
after study empirically proves it's just not true. A key point of the NRA's plans to make our schools and communities safe is simple: more guns. Does that actually hold up? For fact's sake, let's take a look. In 2003, a study on building on research from the 1990s showed a 41% higher chance of homicide in homes with guns versus homes without guns. Fact. It found a 244% spike in suicides when compared to gun-free homes. This data isn't alone, but I want you to always remember this one. Most gun deaths in America are suicides. Nobody else in the world has numbers like American suicide deaths because of the number of guns we have. We'll come back to that another time. A more recent analysis in 2015, based on more than a dozen different studies, and there has been a lot of research. While the CDC doesn't do it, lots of people do. It found that people with access to guns at home were almost twice as likely to be murdered compared to those without guns in their home. Some states use shall issue rules, meaning they must grant permits after certain requirements are completed. Other states use a shall issue, or all the red states, okay? Others use discretionary issue. That is the, it says they're blue, but it's really only over here. They can be selective, but generally grant concealed carry permits. Some states, like New York, for instance, and California, some states like Arizona don't require a permit to be carried at all. This is a mess, this color scheming. But New York and California, which are not even colored on this map, does not have, they've got very restrictive rules to get a permit. So the NRA argues that the states with looser concealed carry laws are much safer than those without. Again, not true. A new study from the National Bureau of Economic Research looked at states that adopted right to carry concealed handgun laws, RTC, right to carry. It found that violent crime was 13 to 15% higher 10 years after the right to carry laws were adopted than the projections would have been if those laws had not been passed. And a 1998 survey of shootings in 3 cities found that for every time a homeowner used a gun for self-defense or some other legally justified shooting, there were 4 unintentional shootings. All the data shows that more guns do not mean more safety.
Okay, for fact's sake, we left out one thing.
What's that?
You talked all about the empirical evidence, the studies done. Imagine how many studies that would be done.
And we've been talking about this a lot, but we want to make clear to our viewers, the Centers for Disease Control is not explicitly forbidden from doing research into guns, but there are a lot of things that have happened that have
dissuaded them
and discouraged them from doing so.
That's correct. There was a real sense that there would be a threat to the funding at the CDC if the gun research was done, and not really
why?
gun control
Why
research,
would the
but gun
CDC
research.
risk losing their funding if they were doing nonpartisan research around guns? Why would they lose their funding?
This came as a result of the Dickey Amendment and the discussions surrounding it. One of the changes that Congress made in funding for the Injury Center at the CDC, where they took the $2.6 million that was going towards gun research and put it into traumatic brain injury research. So basically it said, you can't use this money for gun research. You have to use it for something else, and we're going to tell you where you can use it.
There are others doing gun research, and very specifically when it comes to the CDC, I think this is really important. The type of work that the CDC could do on this is guns as a public health issue, guns as something that results in a lot of people being killed. Is there a way to do this under the current laws where the CDC can do the research necessary, like the research necessary on car safety and keeping? I mean, there was never any goal of the CDC's to stop cars from being owned or driven. But we realized that car accidents were injuring and killing a lot of people. So the CDC researched this, and that led to changes in the way we drive and the changes in the way our cars are built. Can that model be used with the CDC for guns?
Certainly the model could be used, but one of the issues is the funding now as far as being able to actually perform the research or fund people externally to do the research, which is a lot of what CDC did. They were doing some internal research, but they funded external researchers at academic centers to do some of the research. So
Linda,
right now, they don't have the funding.
Yeah, this is, I mean, just something